Matthew says weak churches produce weak men. And that leads me to my next point here is, why is it so important to have men in the church? Like, what's so important about that? We keep on talking about why don't men go to church, and this is the reason why, and why don't they follow, why is it so important to have them in the church?
Yeah.
Why not just let our churches be not dominated by women? Why not let them lead the men? And why is it so important to have men in church?
Well, it's important to have people in church.
For
the
sure.
Local churches for all Christians, but I understand what you're saying. So the men have a role. If you have a certain hermeneutic and you're reading the Bible with a certain lens, you're going to come to the biblical conclusion that men have a role to lead. They're not better than women. They're not worth more than women. They have a role that God has given them to lead within the church. So if you have a lack of leadership and a lack of vision and a lack of pastoral care, I mean, you know what the result of that is. There's going to be disarray. There's going to be chaos. There's going to be problems. So there's an importance for men to not just be in the church, to not just be in the local church, but to understand their role within the family, within the church,
the infrastructure of it, and the dynamics and all the things that play a part in forming the church. For sure, I agree with that, man. It's a really good point. Your wife, I was reading the comments, she said she thinks that some of the reason why men aren't in churches, or why Christianity is seen more as a feminine thing, is because of the feminist movement that's going on in the world. Yeah. And that's something that we always bring up, is that it's a common problem in churches, is that you have all these outside problems bringing themselves into the church. We talked about the fact that younger men have a problem with submitting and looking up to older men in the church that are seasoned in the faith. Younger men have a problem with that because that starts outside of the church. You go outside of the church and you have authority issues. You have men with fatherlessness, and those things play an issue. So we're definitely going to see the feminist movement have a role in the church. It doesn't deserve it. It doesn't need to be there, but it's going to be there. And so, how do y'all feel about that? Do you guys agree that maybe the feminist movement outside of the church has made its way and migrated into the churches, and maybe that's why we're seeing some of these things?
So we don't battle against flesh and blood, right? There's a real enemy that has a real agenda. Satan's not just like, let me just throw this random stuff. It's a very calculated way that we're in the military, and there is a whole system by which you look at your enemy, you look at your terrain, you look at your overall situation, and you make your mission, and how you execute that mission is all going to be based off of the situation. So Satan knows, if I'm going to attack you and your group, I'm going to attack the leader. I'm going to attack the head. Because if I attack the head, it affects the rest. The sheep are going to scatter. Sheep are going to scatter. You attack that shepherd, the sheep are going to
look at what David did to Goliath, and all the Philistines ran away.
Chop the head off. And it's sad because we're susceptible to it. We're falling to it. So when I think about feminism, it's so difficult because there's an aspect of feminism that has a good desire.
For sure. There
Women
is.
and men are equal in value. We're all created in God's image, right?
Yeah. It started off well. Let me put it this way. The intent, I think there's genuine intent, but it always gets distorted.
Well, there's always a little bit of truth. That's how things become valid and make sense to a lot of people. There's always a little bit of truth. Somewhere along the lines, you wrap the biggest lies up, or you wrap the smallest truths up with the biggest lies. You see what I'm saying? There's always going to be a little bit of truth in the middle of all
and when
this.
we see Paul's view on men and women, they're equals, right? Right, in worth, both made in the image of God.
So why do we place such emphasis on gender roles in the church then?
Well, because I think of sin.
Now you got to talk egalitarianism.
Yeah.
So if we're within the church, I mean,
say that word one more time for those of them, anyone watching right now.
Egalitarianism.
There it goes. There it goes. Go ahead and look that one up, guys.
So,
yeah.
When we're talking very broadly too, because
for sure,
there's people who would hold to an egalitarian view that are conservative, that we would check almost all the same boxes. They just hold to it. And truthfully, even people that say, "Oh, I'm complementarian," they're not complementarian.
Yeah, we're using terms now, soft complementarianism, and
there's just so much
now
to
there's
talk about
different
here.
levels in that.
But if we're going to talk about feminism, you have to talk about egalitarianism and what roles do women have within the family, the Christian family, and in the church, in the local church.
Right.
That is more of a matter that pertains to us than feminism, where most churches that are within that will be the people listening to us now, or probably would listen to this, aren't so much running to feminism, Me Too movement type stuff. It's more of an egalitarian, complementarian struggle.
That's an in-house issue, right, within the church. You know, I think that's true. Yeah, I think we need to talk about that. I saw an N.T. Wright video. Okay. You know, and he's very egalitarian in his view. I think he's dead wrong on it. But there are views, that people hold out there that do directly affect the local church. Yeah. And is causing strife in a local church too. Yeah. Because of the confusion between roles and value.
A lot of division.
Roles and value is the core problem.
Yeah.
How you exegete passages in scripture pertaining to leadership,